Well, for your edification and pleasure, and because it's so bloody noisy in the CBD, we've decided to do this in the car. Don't get any ideas. Children watching, please do not do this at home on a hot day. All right, et tu Brutus. Now, image is everything in politics. In 21st century politics, image is everything. In the 24-hour news cycle, image is everything. And loss of our ability to look backwards is everything. Now, our current Prime Minister, to me, is going to be the most difficult individual to deal with since Federation. Now, remember, Mr. Morrison, the current Prime Minister, has made Parliament House into Happy Clappers Central. That's Parliament House in Canberra. He's also the minister who brought coal into Parliament, a lump of coal, and he's also the minister that was responsible for the introduction of legislation which allowed the atrocities that are occurring on Mount Asylum and Nauru to be implemented. That's his background. Now, a lot of people, it's interesting since the election, which they won unexpectedly, which I thought they could win, and I'll tell you why. Because Morrison is an expert at image. He comes across as your average family bloke. Father of 2 kids, devoted husband, politician working for the people, happy clapper, church member, a life built on a strong moral foundation. Abbott was a fool. Turnbull was a self, he loved himself. It was obvious. They were easy people to deal with. But this man is exceptionally brilliant at being a chameleon. He can actually fit in to most situations where ordinary people identify with him. And he knows that. He knows he has that ability. Dutton is unelectable, but Morrison can be elected over and over and over again because ordinary people gravitate to him. When I'm just talking about ordinary people, I'm just talking about people on social security benefits, wage earners, white-collar workers, blue-collar workers, professionals, intellectuals, just normal taxpayer and non-taxpayer. So what we need to look at is the government's legislative agenda which he is pushing. And if we look at the legislative agenda, it gives us an idea into how evil this man is. And I don't use that word lightly, because he is evil, because he's the master manipulator. This is the man that stood next to Turnbull 48 hours before he knifed him and said, "This is my friend. This is my leader." This is that man. Irrespective of his religious connections, as far as his ability to tell the truth, it's exceptionally questionable. And when you look at his legislative agenda, you know what's going on. His speech to the public service was a classical example of what he wants to happen. Not only does he want to outsource public service functions to the private sector, and we've seen what a disaster that is with Centrelink, he now wants to outsource the decision-making process to the very organisations which are making money managing social security beneficiaries. We've already seen this with Parents Next, with single parents, and we've seen it with unemployed people in the New Start, where the actual agency, not Centrelink, has the power to actually take people off their benefits. This is a controlling mechanism. This is the man who wants to introduce legislation which will make it impossible for already a weakened trade union movement to actually function. He wants to push that legislation through Parliament. This is a man who is not willing to allow the last few hundred asylum seekers to obtain asylum in New Zealand, although that offer has been open for over 4 years. This is a man who does not believe in climate change. He does not believe in the facts. He does not believe in global warming. He is not interested in the facts. His behaviour at the South Pacific Forum was a typical example of an arrogant bully. When the people of Tuvalu and the rest of the South Pacific said, "We are very concerned about climate change. It is the major issue which is facing us. We are exceptionally concerned about climate change," what he said to them was, I don't care. I don't care if you drown. And the Deputy Prime Minister says, well, they can work as fruit pickers if the worst comes to the worst. So he had an opportunity to come up with a consensus agreement to say that in the future Australia would not rely on coal to produce energy. He refused to be part of that consensus group. And it's no wonder the South Pacific is now looking to China. If you're drowning and your neighbours and your friends turn your back on you and somebody throws you a lifebuoy and says, well, there are conditions, well, you'll take that lifebuoy. And that's what's going to happen in the South Pacific. Then again, this man has got legislation in place which is going to make the misery of social security beneficiaries, especially people on New Start, single parent benefits and disability support pensions, much more difficult than it should be. This is a man who is willing to see increasing homelessness in this country, increased child poverty. And this is a man who in Parliament, when the Labor Party attempted to get a debate going regarding the New Start allowance, said that it's all about unfunded empathy. To him and to the happy clappers, to them, empathy is about money. But not money for ordinary people. This is about increasing the power of the corporate sector and increasing the profitability of the corporate sector. This is a man who is willing to legislate, wait till the end of next year, to put in banking legislation after a Royal Commission which showed the financial sector's corrupt behaviour. And this is a man who is willing to manipulate the laws in order to allow religious-based organisations to legally discriminate against fellow citizens. And more importantly, this is a man who continues to pass legislation which sees billions of dollars of taxpayers' money going to the pockets of religious organisations in supporting their hospitals, their schools, their education facilities, their outsourcing of welfare, social security services to the population. This is a man who believes in the wholesale privatisation, not just of the institutions, but of the resources which are used by the institutions, and more importantly, outsourcing decision-making capacity regarding people's lives to privately owned organisations so they can maximise their profits. There is nothing good about this agenda. And more importantly, this is a Christian, a happy clapper, who is happy to beat the drums of war, who is happy to turn North Australia into an international military base. This is a man who is willing to use fear to get people to support policies which will lay the foundations in North Australia for the deployment of intercontinental ballistic missile by the United States in its war with China. He is one of the most dangerous people that this country has seen as Prime Minister. He is dangerous because he is able to manipulate the media to create an image of a caring, middle-class, ordinary, worshipping, God-worshipping Australian. Somebody you can trust. The father figure that we all want and we all need. This is his strength, and it's also his potential weakness, because we as activists need to put a hole in that balloon, because as he gets more confident regarding this image he's trying to project, it's important that we are able to puncture that balloon over and over again, because there is nothing in the legislative agenda of a Liberal National Party, which is led by Scott Morrison, which will improve the lives of ordinary Australians. It will not improve the lives of people on social security benefits, the 30%. It will not improve the lives of people who are working casual part-time. It will not improve the lives of blue-collar workers and white-collar workers. It will hardly improve the lives of investors, because he is creating division in the community. He feeds on division. He is an exception. People look at me and they see horns and a tail and they say, well, that's the devil, and we have to deal with the devil in a certain way. When you look at the Prime Minister, you see an angel. An angel, man with an angel suit covering his horn and his tail. And that's why I say he's evil. I'm not saying he's evil because he's done evil things. I am saying he's evil because he can manipulate public opinion in such an extent to get people to work against their best interests. And the interesting thing is, the number of people on social security benefits who actually voted for the Liberal National Party and voted specifically for Mr Morrison because of his user-friendly face. Don't forget, this is a man who has presided over so many policies which has caused so much harm and continues to cause so much harm, which will lead to Australia basically becoming a military base, especially North Australia, to protect the United States interests in this region. If you think I'm exaggerating, look at the last few weeks. Look at the balloons that have been sent up. Look at the media coverage. Look at how the media is drummed into line, following the policy that, the yellow hordes, the communists, the domino theory, it's all happening again. Those of us who are old enough to remember will remember. But remember, this is about life and limb. It's about our future. It's about our country. And I will not allow somebody like him to dominate the political debate without opposition. The Alternative Liberal Party, masquerading the Australian Labor Party, missed their chance. It's now up to people like us, activists, to actually put our front foot forward and be involved in continuous campaigns over the next few years to burst the bubble, the increasing bubble of a Morrison who believes that he has no opposition, who controls power, who's able to wield power in such a way as to destroy any legitimate opposition in this country. So I call on you to tell your friends, tell them what Morrison is really like. Remember your history, remember what he's done in the past, remember the legislative agenda which has been put through Parliament today, and think about the future of your children and their children and of this country and of the people of this country. It is not his country. It's not the happy clappers country. It belongs to each and every one of us. Not just Indigenous Australians, not just immigrants, not just people who are born here, but it is our country. It is not their country. It does not belong to the corporate sector. We are not here to be actors, profiteers for the corporate sector. We are here to ensure that we live a secure, safe, we create a secure, safe society and community where everyone is able to enjoy the bounties of this plentiful land. Scott Morrison or no Scott Morrison, that is what this is about. Because somebody has a religious faith does not mean they have anything more to offer to society than somebody without a religious faith. Look at the history of religion in the world and look at the disasters that have occurred. All I can say to you is Scott Morrison is dangerous, he's slippery, he is Turnbull's Brutus, he is the corporate sector's man. He has a veneer of respectability, and that veneer of respectability needs to be publicly torn away.